I was just backstage talking to our next Campfire storyteller, and we were talking about connection. We were talking about last year. Who was here last year when we butchered the bison? I mean, shout out to Rachel over there. She made that happen. We were talking about moments of appreciation. We were talking about how we're able to connect through this thing that we do as hunting. And we're able to see other cultures, and we're able to see other people in the way that they have grown up. And I talked to my dad after that, and I said, I will admit this. Watching Tyson running wolf and his brothers butcher that bison, I was just a little bit jealous of the way that they connected with their past, the way that they engendered a respect and a value for that animal. You could see it. You could see it in their eyes, you could see it in their actions, you could see it in the way they presented that. And it inspired me to talk to my dad about how can we do that in our lives? How can I do that for my children? How can I do that for the people around me and create those moments and those connections and celebrations around these animals? So that's my story about being inspired, but I'm gonna let Tyson take it away. Tyson, running wolf.
Yeah, they asked about that. You kind of have a theme song when you come out about what you want, and I was thinking, what the heck should I play? They just asked here because I kind of blew off all the emails they were sending to me about things they wanted me to do and whatnot. And I was standing there and I said, just play, I don't know, Talking Head Psycho Killer. But we're at a hunting event. So they did. You know, I'm going to talk about mentorship again, what we've been hearing, kind of becoming a theme when you sit back and watch and see how this comes together. And it wasn't put together that way. So when I was young, I come from a broken family, all the same things you hear from different kind of places. And it's a theme on reservations too. And I had a grandfather and all of them and everybody there. And in that time, I didn't know what I had. I was just kind of surviving what I could do to make it by. But we had a place that was out in Heart Butte on the Blackfeet Reservation. My grandpa on the Running Wolf side of my family, his name was Malvin Running Wolf, and we lived on a place called Whitetail Creek with my grandma Maddie and all of them. And it was kind of like we'd say, like the Sand County Almanac. I heard that earlier, of a place of preservation. I didn't know what that meant. It was just an oasis for me of getting away out of Browning, mean streets down on Willow Creek. Try not to get my butt kicked, or I had plenty of food. They liked to cook for me and all of that. But during that time, I would go out in the brush in Willow Creek, or of Whitetail Creek, and I'd fish brook trout. My dad would say, let's go walk and go hunt. And we'd go out and we'd go hunting. My grandpa was always there. He was my hero. And I have a lot of heroes in my life that kind of was mentors to me. People like Smoke Alzer, who's a world-renowned outfitter. I worked for him. Jack Hooker, another world-renowned outfitter. I worked for him. I had Keith Kachowski, saddle maker. I had, on my Blackfoot side, I had Peter Weasel Moccasin, who's a spiritual man. Leonard Bastine, who's like another dad. I had my mom, I have a beautiful wife, and I have grandmas that all raised me. And in that time of being raised, boy, I get to go out and hunt. I could tell you guys all the stories. Geez, I caught fish this big. That was just between the eyes. I could tell you about fish that I caught that were that long from the shore. I've been there, I've done that. And of all of that, one of the biggest things that I learned when I was out there guiding and doing all of that stuff was the ability for folks to relate. I was a Blackfeet man. I'm a Blackfeet man still, I hope. I was just looking, yeah. And one thing when I was guiding that I could always break down people from all the United States, and I've guided hundreds of people, was that we could talk about hunting and fishing. But there was one time I was out there, and a guy started visiting me about my culture. You're a Blackfoot man, you come from the Blackfeet Indian Reservation? Yep. Well, what do you know? I was young. I was only about 20 years old. He says, I don't know shit. I says, I used to go hunting with my grandpa. We'd be going up into a place called North Fork of Birch Creek. Some of you guys might know where that is. It's right on the foothills of the Rocky Mountain front on the Badger 2 Medicine. And we'd go into the North Fork and we'd be with my dad and my uncle, my grandpa. And we'd be hiking up into the North Fork. We'd go into a place called Hungry Man. And my dad and my uncle were antelopes. They were both four-time state champ runners. And I was only 7, 8 years old, and I want to go with them. And my grandpa would just kind of, no, not yet, my boy, just stick with me. But they wouldn't really hold me back, but they wouldn't let me just go take off with them because, I'd get lost and I'd get whatever. But we'd be hiking up there and I'd be with him and we'd be going up over the tops of the mountains in certain areas, and we're just taking our time, and I'd be running in front of him. And he'd say, gika, gika. That means stop. And I'd be coming to a snow, and as a young kid, you want to step in that snow and check it out and see what it's about. He says, let's play a game. Don't step in that snow. Whatever you do, don't step in that snow. So it was a game. All right, I won't step in it. And I'd creep around it. And I'd look over and I could see my dad and I'm way across hiking through. And then we'd hike down and we'd meet him, always trying to stay out of the snow. And my grandpa was good at it too. No, he wouldn't stay in that snow. And I revert back and I keep going and thinking about that. My whole life I think about that, staying out of that snow. But I would still go in the snow as I got older and whatnot, but that really stuck with me for a long time. Why did he want me to stay out of that snow? You just play that game. And like I said, the hunter asked me about my cultural knowledge. Well, I guess I learned to stay out of the snow, whatever that meant. I didn't know. But my grandpa, he ended up getting old and he died. My dad was alcoholic. Didn't do too much with him. He passed away of liver cancer a few years ago. But in that time frame, I went on this other journey. I was walking in this kind of a lost life. Not going wild and drinking and partying and not womanizing either, my wife, but just different. I was and I'd still hunt here and there and keeping busy and guiding. But I started going on this cultural journey and this spiritual journey. To become a Blackfoot man. I was way over here. What do you mean a Blackfoot man? Well, I start going to the ceremonies and start understanding some of the language and start some of the protocols. And what really hit home was, I want to know the hunting ceremony so I can kill more animals. No, that ain't a joke. I wanted them to be the best. Guys come with me, I wanted them to know. And it went on this journey and I got kind of lost in this ceremonial life. which became a rebirth and a refinement to who I am. And as it went back, and I asked that question, what did that mean to stay out of the snow? I asked an elder. Did my grandpa know something? And them elders go, I don't know. I never heard of that before. But as I was coming back and thinking about it, what my grandpa was trying to do was he was trying to protect us. Because on that time when my grandpa was being raised, he was in a boarding school era. He was stripped from his family. He was brought in. He had to stop his language. But he still inherently had his hunting rights in him. He knew there was something there. So he continually would into badger. He'd go back there and he'd hunt all year. Not just during hunt season, all year. So can you guys put it together? Why was my grandpa not wanting us to step in that snow? Well, there was park rangers and other rangers. In his day, he had to stay out of that snow because they could track him. And they would find us. And they would take away our livelihood. And I got it. I finally was getting it. All right. Inherently, he knew he had to hunt to protect our family. So we could eat, so we could have food, so we could have the story of the hunt. But he was also stripped of the ceremony. I heard Land talk about what he had out there at the place we went out and ate, where he would take the blood and he'd put it on a rock. That's a ceremony. That ain't a religious piece. That's a ceremony of what they're practicing. Well, the same goes with us in Blackfoot. So as I learned about that piece of survival and we needed to eat and how we needed to protect ourselves, the elder said, Tyson, you have to know the ceremony of the hunt. You're a hunter. You can't just stop hunting because you practice these cultural and patrimonial ways. So we're going to tell you these. And we went all through the whole ceremony of how to hunt and what we have to do to hunt. Then I become into a dilemma because these ceremonies give us favor, like carrying the silver dollar. It's what we had. We've had it for thousands and thousands of years passed down. Now I come into my dilemma like I'm telling you. I've been guiding people. They'd be on my back, all up and down these mountains, all over the place. And we wouldn't be being lucky. We weren't coming across game. And in my head, I'm having this struggle. What do I do? What do I do? Because I'm a hobby outfitter. Because I'm not making no money. I do it because I love it. I love being out there. So here I am, knowing all this knowledge. Now how do I go back across and say, all right, I'm going to teach you my ways so that you're successful. But what's they going to do with that knowledge? And when the elders say that, you got to be careful with what you have and what you know and the people that are there. So that's where I even struggle with today about that. So when we had the ceremony of the buffalo, I told everybody, I took that step of not being scared, of not putting my foot in the snow. I said, F it. You guys take pictures. You guys listen to what I say. Listen to the way I pray. And if you get it, you got it. And I didn't hold back. We did it. We just went. There was stuff that we did that went plumb over people's heads because they were so interested in the process, but not what was going on behind the scenes. Another part that sat back there, well, I just want to make that point that tribal nations do have stuff to offer to the rest of the world. But it's as sacred to us, it has to be as sacred to everybody else. To protect what we're doing. Some of it may seem totally not on the full, I heard Lance saying, it's got to be science-based, yeah. But there's also some traditional ecological knowledge that tribes have had for centuries that we as natives have to also share, and that people have to be receptive to doing and respecting too. So it goes back also, when I was a Blackfeet Tribal Council, I was a council member there. And the fishing gang come to us and says, hey, listen, we're in a dilemma here. The state Fish and Wildlife Commission just didn't consult the tribe on the Badger 2 medicine on opening season for elk at a certain time. What do you guys as tribal leaders want to do? And I sat there for a long time. And I said, I told him the story of my grandpa and not being able to put my feet in the snow and everything. And it was across the border from us in the National Forest in the Badger 2 medicine. I said, if they didn't consult with us, they got to come across our land to get to the east boundary to go into Badger 2 medicine. I said, it's going to hurt hunters because they don't know what's going on either. They didn't know that the state didn't consult the tribe. We have some say. We hunt too. We have some practices that maybe can help. Why didn't they ask us? That's just going to hurt their own people. Well, what do you guys want to do? All right. If we catch their foot on our snow, that's it. We're fining them. We're cutting off that east side. Let them feel how we felt for the last 75 years. It was brutal. It wasn't fair. I hear about it all the time. That's why consultation is so important. And co-management is so important to us as tribal nations. It's the new era of us not being scared, but also we're generous enough as Native American people to share what we know and to share what we have, as long as it's respectful. So in that journey, this continuous journey I'm on, I thought about that the other day, and I really respect BHA.